Man versus Tech. I'm Kyle,
I'm Taylor.
and today we're going to be talking about cybersecurity or computer security. But first, we've got a news item for you. And so let me share this screen here. I thought this was really interesting when I saw it. An illegal pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this has to do with some physical security. We deal a lot with oil and gas here.
Yeah.
I was talking with one of the accountants earlier today, even actually about the need for security cameras at batteries for wells. That way you could see if somebody's stealing from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered this story that I saw a couple weeks ago where somebody had built a whole pipeline that ran like a couple miles, 4 kilometers. All right.
Okay.
And they were just draining oil from somebody else's pipeline. That seems pretty intense.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of work to go through.
It is, and it's a lot of like permanent work.
Yes.
And like, there's no way that you couldn't have noticed that there wasn't a problem if you were keeping an eye on it physically.
Yes.
Monitoring what was coming, what was supposed to be going through.
Oh, of course.
It just kind of blows my mind.
There's a lot of parallels you can make from this. There's pipeline. We're in the data business here as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there's data pipelines.
There are.
And that data can be siphoned off into another pipeline without you. And it's even more deceptive with data because you can just copy it. So you'll never know.
You'll never know that it was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if somebody knows what they're doing, maybe they take it out, delete it from your end, and you don't know that you're missing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not even be nefarious. You might be missing something on accident.
Yes.
Now you have an unknown.
Mm-hmm.
How do you fix that?
Or even worse, they go in and tweak it just a little bit. So you've still got the data, but you don't even know it's wrong.
But it's tampered with. Yes. Yeah. And then another thing that blew my mind with this news story, when I first saw it, it said that they found another illegal pipeline, which means this is not even the first one.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is just a pretty intense operation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. So a little bit of fun.
They make a lot of money off of that.
Oh, I would bet.
Yeah.
Stealing that oil and selling it. I mean, I think it'd be pretty hard to get away with a pipeline here in the United States.
Yes.
But if you have the right equipment, you could pull up to a storage tank, drain it out, load it up on a truck, and drive it someplace else and sell it to a third party, and then they sell it down the road too.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's bad business.
You'd have to know a lot of people.
You would. People. You'd have to know some people that don't ask questions.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good stuff. Let's talk about security. So a lot of times, the first thing that people think about whenever they think of any sort of IT, computer, website security, they think of passwords. Any thoughts on passwords?
You have to make them extremely complex, and then to a point where it's hard to remember them, and so you forget them. And there's password managers and stuff, but they don't really do a great job because they're not across everything.
They're not across everything. And they kind of defeat the purpose of having a different password for everything when you have one password to get into your password manager.
That's true.
Which it is a little bit more complicated than that. We're not going to get too detailed or technical with it here, but
that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, it's a little flag in my head. It's like, not sure that's really as good as some people purport it to be.
Oh yeah, and you could put like maybe the password manager's got a two-factor authentication, or you have to do 2 separate forms of like it's password, and you have to do 2-factor, and like they call you or something.
So yeah, that 3-factor authentication.
Yes.
So before we get into 2FA there, passwords, you talked about them being complex. Of course, dictionary-based passwords, if somebody's doing a brute force attack, they're just going through lists of words a lot of times and word-based things, switching out letters for numbers that are very common.
Which we've experienced an attack kind of like that.
Yes, yeah. And those attacks take time. They take a lot of resources on the attacker's side.
Oh, yeah.
The biggest thing is it kind of acts like a denial of service attack because it might just be hammering your network and making it hard for people to log in.
Because it's sending a buttload of requests every
Yes.
single second.
Just as many as it can, trying to get through all those words and variations of them. So a lot of websites make you not use words. They're like, oh, you have to have a special character and an uppercase letter and a lowercase letter and a number.
And it can't contain like your username or any part of the username.
Right. And it has to be at least 8 characters. You know, that's pretty standard stuff.
Yeah.
Right. But it makes it hard to remember. And different websites have different rules. Like what special characters can you use? Not all of them will let you use, you know, I don't know. Let's see. I'm looking at the leftmost side, the tilde there. You know, that's squiggly line. Not all of them will let you use that.
And that's a good one.
It is a good one. You know, some of them say you have to use all these different kinds of characters, but you have to start with a letter. I've seen that before.
Interesting.
And so you have to start with a letter, but then you have to also use a number. You can't start with it. And that just makes it hard to remember things. That's where password managers come in, right?
And having to change your passwords, because I know certain Windows domains will require you to change it constantly.
Yeah.
And that really makes it difficult to remember.
It does. You know, kind of a default setting for that on Windows Server, I think, is 90 days. So it'd be 4 times a year. You're changing your password. Maybe 5 actually, if it gets timed right. And a lot of times people just do iterations of the same password when it comes to that. So is it really any beneficial?
Not at all.
If you had like, well, my first password was password 1, my second password is now password 2. No one's going to guess that. Like,
it's like,
you know, or whatever your password is, right?
You just change the symbol each time.
Yeah, you just change like that. Just okay. It's better than nothing.
It is.
I'll grant you that. And unless somebody's trying to guess it, they're not going to. But if they knew your old password, they now have a really good chance of guessing your new password.
Oh, that would be the first thing they'd try.
Yeah, just one little tweak. What's the smallest change that can be made? And it's because as humans, like we don't want to allocate all this brain space to passwords, or even better, passphrases.
Oh yeah.
You know, passphrases can be easier to remember. You know, there's certain sayings that I've had in life that, you know, be like, okay, well, that'd be like 63 characters.
Yes.
And that'd be impossible for somebody to guess in an attack. But a lot of times passwords won't even let, password system won't let a password be that long. They won't allow passphrases because it's meant for passwords. They're like, oh, has to be at least 8 characters, can't be more than 16. You know, and you're like, well, I guess the quick brown fox is not jumping over the lazy dog today. No. You know, like that'd be a.
It's just quick and brown.
That's right. And then you do have on like some Unix-based systems, you can enable invisible characters as part of the password, which is fun.
Interesting.
So like you could include a backspace in your password. So if you were doing, I'll use a generic one. Nobody use password as your password. But if your password was PASSV backspace WORD, right? If somebody were to look at that, at the end of the day, it says password. But the fact that there was a V and it had to be a V and then it had to be backspaced, that can be part of the password.
Interesting.
So that's pretty cool.
And that's probably way more difficult to account for if you're trying to brute force a password.
Definitely. But, you know, these days, most attacks aren't brute force attacks. You know, I think
informed.
They are. I think it was Centennial Pipeline back at the beginning of the year that really made people. Maybe that was even last year. Time flies.
2020.
Oh, jeepers.
Or was it 21?
At this point,
they're kind of 1 year.
I think we're in year 3 of 2020.
Yes.
At this point,
we're like near the end.
I said something. I was like, last year. I was like, no, that was 2019 that happened. So at some point, right, the Centennial Pipeline, they didn't have to brute force that person's password. That person gave them the password. The biggest, well, I say the person gave it. They got it because the person used the same password on multiple websites.
Oh yeah.
So they just breached the website security bank, got the password, tried that password someplace else. So it doesn't matter how good the password is. They had it. They didn't have to brute force it.
Which is kind of amazing that they were able to put that together.
It is. They say, oh, this person's user account is this email address, which goes to this company.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try that email address and password on their company website. And it worked. So humans, whether it be phishing scams, right? People sending you, sending you a link like, hey, there's a problem with your Amazon account. Log in and fix it.
Oh yeah,
Get
that one a lot.
It might look legit. You go to the website and it looks legit on the website, and then you put in your password, and it might even, after they store your password, take you to your My Account page on Amazon. And then you're like, there's no problem here, and you don't think anything of it. Now they have your Amazon password.
Yeah.
And then how many other things do you use that same password for? Right?
Probably a lot of things.
Generally, people reuse passwords. So one way around that is two-factor authentication. So what do you mean by two-factor authentication?
So let's say you enter in your password and it's like, okay, that's cool. Check your mobile authentication app on your phone. I'd stray away from those just because they're very, so if you switch phones, it no longer works. Even if you still use the same account, it's different. It doesn't seem to really work that great, especially the Google one. I've had a lot of issues with those.
Google Authenticator, yeah, because there's Google Authenticator. Microsoft has one. I use Authy, is the one that I use. So that's probably a security issue that I just said that live. But
I guess you're going to change now.
But the thing, so you're talking about these generators that generate a random code, maybe 4, 6, or 8 digits. That refreshes.
Yes.
It's connected to a server on the site. So you put in your password, then they ask for that code. That code is supposed to be only inside your app, and it's only good for like 30 seconds or a minute.
Oh, yes.
And you have to type that in, hit enter, and then it verifies that token, and now you're in.
And then that token's invalid.
Yes. Again. And so that's one way. Text is one of the oldest ways to do it, right?
It's my favorite.
Text, we text you a code, now type that code in. Somebody could intercept text messages.
That's true.
Again, that's another level of sophistication.
Yes. And you have to think about how bad do they want whatever they're trying to get into.
Yeah, and I think that's the ultimate point that I try to make to people with security is there is no such thing as 100% operational security.
Oh yeah.
It is impossible to account for every possible action by every possible bad actor in every situation, as well as accounting for every possible instance of just human carelessness or poorly executed good intentions or innate stupidity, whatever it is. You can't account for everything.
That's true.
What you can do is you can be more trouble than it's worth.
Yes.
And a big way to be more trouble than it's worth is just cover all the bases, all the normal stuff. Be harder than the next guy. Because a lot of times these hackers, they're trying this on more than one person.
So it's like running from a bear. You just have to be faster than the guy behind you.
That's right. Yeah. That's a perfect example. Yeah. And sorry for the next guy, but if it takes if a hacker's hacking 2 people at the same time, and he gets into one after a couple hours, and the other one is not budging, not getting in, okay, ignore the one I can't get into. I've got a potential gold mine here. Let me deal with that.
Oh yeah, let's dig through it and see what's there.
So there are things like the Google's Titan security key, right? And there's YubiKey. There's different versions of these keys. These are physical devices,
yes,
that you have to plug into your desktop to be able to log in. We have fingerprint or thumbprint readers, facial recognition on phones, retina scanners, all these things on mobile devices. Two-factor authentication for mobile device would be having to put in a PIN code and a facial recognition, or your
biometric of some sort.
Yes, yeah, yeah, maybe thumb and something else.
Okay,
passphrase. There's some fun ones where you use past pictures, and it'll show you a collection of pictures, and it's like, well, which picture is the one that you set? As your login, and that's usually done as a secondary method, a verification method, not as the first one. So I've seen lame ones where they just show you one picture, like, is this your picture? And you just have to say yes or no, and it's just always your picture.
It's always.
But I have run into at least one instance where they showed a collection of pictures, and it was like, pick which picture you have chosen. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's a good way I've never thought of before. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so that's a two-factor, and that's also a way that it's harder for AI and bots to work with those kinds of images on a computer screen because they may not know where the image begins and ends.
Interesting.
Or they get the file, and it's just harder for them to deal with the picture than with text, right? And we are seeing more and more sophistication incorporating artificial intelligence into these attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like it's not necessarily security. It is a security measure, but it's not to protect people's stuff. It's more bots and kind of keeping them from spamming a website. With Google's, they'll display 2 different words with the lines and squigglies in it because we've got firsthand knowledge that OCR is both really good and not there yet.
Yes. The whole CAPTCHA initiative, right?
Yes, and it's like CAPTCHA. I guess V3 or 4 doesn't do that anymore, but V2 or V1 does it, where one would be just one that is to verify you're human, and one's to train the Tesseract engine. I think that is a really good security measure to at least make sure you're human.
Yes.
At least until like the next 20, 30 years when OCR gets better.
When it gets better, and there are also times where I want a bot to log into a website as if it were a human, and that might block it.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
It can't do it. And it's not because I'm trying to do anything bad. It's just part of being more efficient and having a bot do my job for me or some task for me. But that website, for its own security sake, whether it be over usage, denial of service, server overload, or something else, just because there are risks associated with bot usage on a website,
of course,
they want to prevent that action. So they're thinking about their security from their end, right? So we've talked a lot about kind of like end user security from a password perspective. There are other general security measures that we take, right? On your computer, if you have a Windows computer, you have built-in Windows Defender for antivirus, right?
Yes.
It's not really a very proactive application.
No.
It does some proactive scanning, don't get me wrong, but it is mostly reactive. Most virus scanners aren't reactive.
Yes.
You have to at least try to download the virus before it does something. There are, you can get into web filtering and blocking websites or types of websites based on their content that might help people not get viruses.
Oh, yeah.
You have scanner apps, whether that be on your desktop, if you have Outlook and you have Norton or some other McAfee, some antivirus application. There's 100 out there: Avast, Avira, Kaspersky, whatever. IOBIT. Yeah, there's so many out there, right? And not endorsing any one of them or slamming any of them, just saying there's a lot.
Yeah.
And if you have that on your computer and it scans your email and it gets to your computer, that's a very kind of a last resort, last point of contact.
Because it's already there.
It's there. Now it's having to react to that. You have email filters that sit server side, right? Like if you use Gmail or Live Mail or Hotmail, whatever they call it now, Outlook.com, if you're using any, pretty much any major web server commercially available, they have some sort of scanner in there to filter out viruses. If you're using Company One, there's server-side applications you can get, whether it be Clam on Linux or any of the Windows applications for Exchange that you may be running. Right, so you can do that to prevent things. So one of the big things that we have for security, though, is a VPN.
Yes.
So VPNs have been really popular the last few years. Seen a lot of commercials for them, especially as relates to cell phones. Yeah.
Like NordVPN. Yes.
Yes.
I thought you meant, I was thinking like the physical VPN box.
So VPN here, while it means the same thing, virtual private network.
Yes.
We're talking about two very different things.
Oh, yes.
Right. So let's talk first about what we mean when we say our company VPN.
Okay.
All right. What is that?
I would say that is our domain, our company domain. Kind of restrict. It keeps us off the main internet. We can still access the main internet, but it's all through this gateway. And I think that is different from the VPN, like NordVPN.
Yeah. So fundamentally, the VPN is a bit of an obfuscator, right? It is taking all the traffic that's coming to us, and we have some, it's got a built-in firewall. It's got some scanning features. It's got all these things.
It's a router itself.
It's a router. So we have a physical piece of hardware that contains the firewall and VPN platform. Really, it's a firewall with VPN capabilities.
Yes.
And there's lots of, there's a few different options out there that are good ones. Won't endorse any in particular, not what this is for. But it sees all the traffic that's trying to get to us, and it can have rules and say, hey, you know what? This company doesn't have any employees in Spain. Block all the Spain IP addresses.
Yeah.
So firewalls can do that. It might say, hey, this kind of traffic, that's a bad traffic. Or these packets are from a known virus, so it can block stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then the VPN is a way for us to get in and out
through
that safely. Right? And so someone is at their house and they want to access files on our local network. They have to authenticate through the VPN to be allowed through. That otherwise, that kind of activity is blocked. And that's the purpose of the VPN, to let people through the firewall. Based on a certain set of rules, right? It's not just, just let people through. It's rules. There's rules to it. But firewalls are a big deal.
They are.
Before we go on firewalls, let's talk about like NordVPN and all the other mobile VPNs. Have you used any of them?
I tried some to watch stuff from other countries. It did not work.
Yeah, so that is the number one use that I see of VPNs on cell phones.
They seem to have come around pretty quick. They realize what you're doing.
Yes. They're usually pitched as a security thing. Hey, stop if you're on a public Wi-Fi, because so many of us will use public Wi-Fi, right? Cell phones used to charge for the minutes. That's worthless. Used to charge for text messages. Those are unlimited. They now charge a lot for data, right? And you might have unlimited data, but it might also be slow. Or slower than a Wi-Fi. And so you get on a Wi-Fi, whether it be Starbucks or a hotel or
a gym,
your office, whatever it may be. Somebody else on that Wi-Fi, if they know what they're doing, might be able to get to your device, and maybe not necessarily on your device, but intercept. Like we were talking about the data pipeline, intercept some of the information coming to and from your device. From that, they might discern what bank you bank with. They might, depending on the encryption settings, they might be able to discern some sort of username or password.
Definitely.
Right. So a lot of times websites are encrypted. They're using HTTPS for secure transfer of data, and then they have some sort of AES encryption on there. Again, I'm not going to get into too many details there. So I'm not sure how necessary that function of a VPN on a cell phone is, because a lot of times the websites that you're going to that you need secured already have that functionality built in.
And I guess it doesn't hurt to put an extra layer of
it doesn't hurt. Like we said, be harder than the next guy, right? So it doesn't hurt. But most people want to use a VPN to make it look like they're coming from a different country. Because a VPN, that's what I've seen. When I go online, maybe that's just where I hang out online that people are doing that. But people will use a VPN and say, oh, I'm in the UK, so I can watch, Hulu UK for some show that's not available in the United States. Or, we want to watch this, and and this show's exclusive to the United States on Netflix. And so they use a VPN that way.
I do know, at least from when I was trying them out, you can use them. So if your data center, your close data center seems to be kind of slow, like your Wi-Fi is fast, but the response from the data center is slow, you can select a different data center to go through.
Okay.
And so I thought that was pretty cool.
That is really cool. That's a really important fact with the regionality of servers. If you use Amazon Web Services for hosting, right? They've got tons of different regions. I forget how many they have in the United States now, and how many they have globally. but they have multiple ones in the United States alone. And so, if you're on the East Coast, you might want one of their East Coast server farms. If somebody has a website that's hosted there, that same company might have the same exact website also hosted on, what's called the Ireland server for Amazon Web Services. And so if you're in Portugal, do you want to go to the New York server or the Ireland server? You, by default, will probably want to go to the closer one, right? Because it's fewer hops. But there might be some reason to go to the New York one because maybe that one has a better internet connection.
That's true. Yeah. Or it's not getting, maybe the one in Ireland's getting a DDoS attack.
Yes.
So you want to go to the other one.
Because the one in Ireland probably has a faster internet connection here.
Yeah.
Just being straight about the tech there. But the one in Ireland may be going through something that's slowing it down. Maybe everybody else in Ireland is hitting that right then.
Yes.
Because of the football match that's on. And that's where all the stats are being hosted, where it's being streamed from. And you can get a better video quality by going to a different server.
Yeah.
Football, with feet, not the hand version. Just joking. So okay, we've got that. Firewalls. We mentioned firewalls. That's to stop people from getting in and out. Do most people have a firewall?
Not really.
Yeah.
I think because you can set certain routers in people's homes, you can set up as a firewall.
Yes. You can. Like I have a Comcast router. It has some firewall capabilities.
Oh yeah. I would say most people probably don't have that set up.
Yeah. Unless if it's not enabled by default, people don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Because as soon as they're like, "Oh, I'm connected to the internet," they're done.
Yeah.
Done with it, which is perfectly okay.
And a lot of times, people have a firewall on their computer, which again, it's kind of like wearing a bulletproof vest, right? It comes in handy if you need it, but it stops the bullet 2 inches before it hits you.
Yes,
or an inch
like
before
there.
It hits you. Like it is, the bullet's right there.
It's in the network.
Yes. So the further you can keep that attack away, the better, and the less at risk you are. So the firewall on the computer, nothing against it, and there are benefits to it. Here's the big question I want you to ask yourself as to, hey, is my firewall working? Have you ever done something and it stopped you? Because if it hasn't stopped you, either you don't try to do anything dangerous, and you may not be trying to do anything dangerous, but you click on some web links from a Google search, it might take you to a website that isn't good.
Oh, yeah. Or that you don't know isn't good.
Or they don't. Well, I just think like there's plenty of times I'll do a web search and there will be some search result. And when I click on it, a bunch of pop-up ads come. That website has been co-opted. It was around for 10 or 15 years and had content and got some rankings. And then the domain name expired and that company didn't renew it for some reason. Somebody else bought that TLD, that top level domain, because, or that domain name, because they wanted those rankings. And then it is just a bunch of gobbledygook characters on the page, and then pop-ups advertising casinos and you've got a virus. And if you just close the web browser, it's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But if you stay on there long enough or you click into those things, something bad might happen. Did the firewall warn you? No. So that's my question is like, so what's that firewall doing? That firewall is catastrophic insurance. It's not health insurance.
It's like life insurance.
Yeah. It's when it stops just the worst thing. It covers you when the worst things are happening, not the kind of bad things.
And it might not cover all of you.
No. And a lot of times won't. And that's why you have those on computer antivirus applications that have to be reactive because something got to them.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's the first aid kit you wear. If we're comparing it to the bulletproof vest,
yeah,
those are the first aid for the shrapnel that's come off the bulletproof vest.
I love the analogies.
Yeah.
These are good. So what can people do to be secure? We got a couple minutes left. What can people do to help themselves be secure?
As much as I can't stand it, change your password as frequently as you can. Preferably something memorable, like a passphrase. Those are good ones because they're very long. Two-factor authentication everywhere.
Yes. That's a big one. I mean, two-factor authentication stops a whole lot.
Oh, yeah. And then there's a lot of security settings in your browsers, Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and that would stop it right there before it got downloaded or anything comes from the internet. It's kind of the browser's your first line of defense after the firewall.
Yeah,
so it's like your first line. Setting up the security settings in that, I believe default they usually come pretty strict.
Yeah. And you can always heighten them, like in Internet Explorer. It was a little progress bar that you would see. I don't know what it is in Edge, just because I don't use the latest Edge. But back in the day, it was just a little progress bar from, and it would be by default to be set in the middle, and you could go to like low or none, or you could go to higher, like extreme security.
Yeah, like I don't want to be able to go to ToysRUs.com even.
Yes, like by default, it's set on the most extreme security level when you install Windows Server and you open up the web browser, and it'll be like, hey, this web browser is trying to load google.com. Do you want to do that? Yes. It's like, hey, this google.com webpage is trying to load something from google.com. Do you want to allow that? Yes. Right. This thing from google.com is trying to load something from AdWords. Do you want to allow that? Yes.
Yeah, it's like every little thing.
Just, yeah, it's like, okay, this website has 47 resources. I just have to click yes 47 times to load. And then now I have searched my page, and it's like, hey, this google.com page wants to show you results. Do you want to see those? Like, yes. So extreme might be a little much, right?
Yes.
There's got to be some happy medium where it's usable.
Yeah, and there's different types of settings. So if you want it like tracking, that's a good one. To make sure, if you go and make an account on another website, the account that you were or the website you were just on doesn't know that. Because someone who's monitoring just this website, if you had tracking off, would see, oh, they also go to this website and they do have an account over there. It might be the same thing. So
that's very true. Yeah. So don't go places where bad things are.
Yes.
All right. Sometimes that can't be avoided.
Yes.
People will attack you. You go there on accident, whatever. A firewall. All right. Browser settings.
Yes.
And then desktop applications meant to protect you if something bad gets on, to stop it after it gets there.
It's kind of the first aid.
Yeah. So we've got, and then when it comes to passwords, choose complex passwords or passphrases, change them up. Don't use the same password everywhere.
That's correct. And try not to forget them.
Yes.
And actually counterintuitively, it might help to write them down on paper.
Yes. Very few people that are hacking your bank account information or your Amazon password or your Netflix account are in your house with you.
And if they are, you have way more to worry about.
Yes. It's a different level of problems.
Yeah.
So a physical notebook with the passwords is not a bad idea.
It's kind of like the Google Titan key. Like, it's a physical thing. It's the same as having the password written down.
Yes.
It's just a fancy key.
Just a key. And the only thing that won't help you with any rubber hose hacking.
That's true.
So if somebody comes to your house at night, ties you up, and beats you with a rubber hose, just give them the passwords.
Yep. Not worth it.
That's my advice. No, Kyle's not providing official counsel.
And it's not worth it unless it is worth it, in which case, more power to you. I wish you luck.
Yes. Yes. James Bond there. Not giving out the passwords. All right. Well, good stuff. I appreciate the talk, Taylor.
Of course. Thank you.
If anybody has some security. Oh, wait, hold on. We got a question here. Scott, I'm sorry for not seeing this sooner. Are you saying I shouldn't use first name, last name, birthday as all my passwords? You know what? For you, Scott, you should probably send me your first name, last name, and birthday, and then I'll let you know if it's a good password to use for all your websites. Sound good? No, I'm just joking. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't. Yeah. I'm pretty sure Scott was being facetious with us. But yeah, don't do that. And then also, don't tell people your passwords. Maybe that's an easy one. Just don't tell people your passwords. No. If you do get a fishy email, instead of clicking links in the website, or even if it's not a suspicious email, even if it looks like a fully legitimate email, go to, you get an email from, I don't know, bank whatever you bet. What's a bank? Bank of America. There's a bank. All right. If you get an email from Bank of America and you're like, oh, this is legit. It's got the last 4 digits of my account number. They have my name. Everything is spelled correctly. Go to bankofamerica.com or whatever their URL is and log in from there instead of clicking the link in the website. That could save you some headaches too.
If there was an issue with your account, the alert would be on the website as well.
Yes, it will. All right. Well, thank you all, everyone, for watching live. If you don't catch it live, and special thanks to Scott for the comment. And if you don't catch it live, you can always watch this later. I'm Kyle.
I'm Taylor.
And this has been Man vs. Tech. Thank you.
Thank you.